Denise hadn't taken it very seriously when the little girl had presented her with the drawing, but as she made her way back to the kitchen, she reconsidered the girl's words. Something she said was disconcerting. Reaching into the back pocket of her jeans, Denise grabbed the piece of paper. As she studied the drawing closely, it became more and more obvious. The child was in danger. So far, it had been a normal afternoon of serving customers, a shift just like any other. Nothing had felt out of the ordinary. The young girl had come into the cafe at a woman's side, and Denise had eagerly welcomed them. She assumed that it was an average lunch date between a mom and her daughter. But she would soon find out her mistake, and in a terrible way. Her shift had been progressing smoothly, but then she started feeling someone's eyes on her as she moved through the cafe, helping other patrons. Curious, she turned to find the young girl staring at her with an unusual expression. Her eyes held a look of desperation, as if she needed something from Denise. The waitress didn't think it was too unusual and made her way to their table, assuming they wanted to put in an order. "Can I get you something?" Denise asked with a friendly smile, pulling her notepad and pen out of her pocket. But she hadn't been summoned to order something. "Do you maybe have some paper?" the girl asked. "And crayons? I want to make a drawing for you," she continued. As she looked back at her, Denise suddenly saw the despair in the girl's blue eyes. Something was definitely off. With a kind nod and a smile, Denise walked away. She made her way to the closet in the cafe's staff room, where they kept some art supplies for kids. She quickly became engrossed as she dropped the paper and crayons off at the little girl's table. She couldn't imagine why she would want to draw something for Denise specifically. While Denise continued with her waitressing duties, taking care of all her customers, she found herself regularly looking over to the girl and her mom's table. Even though she couldn't put her finger on it, she felt like there was something weird about the duo. The woman looked pretty annoyed and was constantly whispering things into her daughter's ear. Denise wondered what their story was. Soon enough, the little girl captured Denise's gaze a second time. Denise approached the table with a polite smile, but her instincts made her somewhat reluctant. When she arrived at their table, the girl immediately extended her little arm to Denise, clutching her drawing. With an intense look, she said, "I drew this for you." Her next words would be ingrained in Denise's brain forever. A proud Nebraskan, Denise Young had lived in the town of Omaha since she was born. She spent her time either working at the town's cafe or at college, where she was an English major. Her lifelong dream had always been to build a great life for herself, and she was determined to work to achieve her personal goals. Working at the cafe definitely wasn't part of her dreams, but she needed some income to pay off her student loans. Her day-to-day schedule was usually college classes in the morning, followed by an afternoon shift working at the cafe. It was an exhausting routine, but Denise knew that it would be worthwhile in the long term. She made sure to tell herself every day that this was all necessary to get the life she needed. But this time, she took on a heavier burden than she could carry. The Thursday morning had been just like any other. Denise attended her classes as per usual, handing in her most recent assignment and then spending some time with her friends. When her last class for the day ended, she headed straight to the cafe for her shift. Having stayed up later than normal the night before, working on her assignment, she was especially tired, and she definitely wasn't prepared for what would soon occur. When the woman first walked in with the little girl by her side, it made Denise smile. She was used to mothers bringing their daughters to the adorable little cafe. She greeted them at the door and walked them to their table. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The little girl was quiet, but Denise didn't think much of it. "What can I get you to drink?" she asked with a smile on her face. She only had 3 hours left of her shift, and she couldn't wait to go home. She had planned to spend that night in front of the television, watching her favorite show. The woman spoke in a gravelly voice as she ordered 2 milkshakes. Everything seemed fine, but before long, Denise noticed something. The young woman was speaking to one of her colleagues as she glanced over her tables. She had just handed the woman and little girl their milkshakes, but as she spoke to her friend, her eyes glanced over their table. That's when Denise first realized that something wasn't right. The woman was sitting beside the girl, a sour expression on her face. She was speaking into the girl's ear. That's when Denise noticed it. The little girl's eyes held a certain sadness that Denise had never seen before. The older woman was speaking into her ear, and she could tell that it was distressing for the little girl. She wondered what was going on. Had the little girl done something she wasn't supposed to? But as the minutes passed, the situation only seemed to get worse. The woman seemed to have a permanent sour expression on her face. It was clear that something just wasn't right. Denise wasn't sure if she was supposed to go over there and ask if everything was okay. But the woman kept turning to the girl, pulling her arm and speaking into her ear each time the girl made a move. Was something going on? But then, the girl noticed Denise staring. When the little girl beckoned Denise over, her stomach dropped. Something wasn't right, and she was hesitant to get too close. But slowly, Denside approached their table. "Do you have paper and crayons? I want to draw you a picture," the little girl said. That was when Denise noticed the sadness behind her blue eyes. Up close, it was clear as day that something wasn't right about the little girl. Denise did as she was asked. The cafe usually kept drawing paper and crayons around for children. She grabbed the items from a cupboard in the staff room and quickly returned to the girl. She handed the paper to the girl and watched as she got sucked in. But why did the girl want to draw her a picture? She was about to find out.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
It was no more than 10 minutes later that the girl caught her eye once again and asked her to come over. Denise approached, but on the inside, something just didn't feel right. As soon as she reached their table, the little girl handed her the piece of paper, intently looking right up at her, her eyes speaking 1,000 words. "I drew you something," the girl said. But then, the girl said something she would never forget. "It's me and my mom," she told Denise, her eyes intensely boring into Denise's. The woman slowly took the paper from her hands and looked down at it. At first, it didn't seem too strange. "It's beautiful," she smiled, trying her best to be polite toward the girl's random gift. But then the girl mouthed something truly strange. "It's my real mom," the girl mouthed. But before Denise could process those words, the woman spoke up. "Could we get the bill?" the woman asked, staring at her phone as she ignored the little girl beside her. Denise looked down at the girl as she made a small hand gesture, motioning to the bottom of the paper. "We're in a rush, so I need it now," the woman said. Denise obliged and quickly made her way to the back. But as she walked, she quickly glanced back at the girl, seeing the desperation in her eyes. What on earth was going on? Was she trying to tell her something? Denise's mind was clouded by 1,000 thoughts a second. When the little girl handed Denise the drawing, she didn't think much of it. But as she walked into the kitchen, she thought about what she'd said. Something about her words just didn't sit right with her. She reached into her back pocket and pulled the drawing out. Her eyes scanned over the paper, but the longer she stared, the clearer the picture became. The girl was in trouble. The woman in the picture was blonde, while the woman beside her had long, dark hair. But then she remembered something else. The girl wanted her to look at the bottom of the paper, and when she did, she saw something truly terrifying. "Call 911. She's not my mom," it read. Denise was instantly terrified for the little girl. She had to inform someone about this. Denise knew that she couldn't take the bill out just yet. She had to keep the woman and the little girl in the cafe until help could arrive. She ran to her manager, Steve, and explained the entire situation to him, even showing him the drawing and the girl's secret note at the bottom. "Distract them. I'm calling the police," Steve said. With shaky legs and chills running down her spine, Denise slowly approached their table. The girl looked up at her again, her eyes pleading. She averted her eyes to the woman. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We are having some trouble with the machine. It'll just be a moment before I can print the bill," she lied with a shaky voice. But the girl knew the truth. "Can you hurry it up? We need to leave town before it's too late," the woman grumbled. "We're working as fast as we can, ma'am," she said. Denside glanced down at the little girl and shot her a reassuring smile. Help was on the way. All she needed was to keep them around for a little while longer. Denise waited in the back, her stomach twisting with uncertainty. She wondered who the woman was and what she was doing with such a young child. Something about it just didn't sit right with her. Something sinister was going on, but justice was about to be served. It wasn't long before she saw the flashing blue lights outside. The second police stepped through the doors. Steve led them to the table. When the woman spotted the officers, she tried to run, but she was much too late. They instantly grabbed hold of her and cuffed her. The little girl jumped up from her seat and ran toward Denise, engulfing her in a big hug. Thank you," the girl wept. But what was the story? According to the officers, the little girl Maddie had gone missing from her hometown nearly 2 weeks prior. No one knew what had happened to the little girl. The strange woman was her aunt, who had always wanted a child of her own. She had taken the child from her sister and was trying to flee. Denise couldn't believe her ears. In the end, the woman was arrested, and thanks to Denise, the little girl was reunited with her parents. The parents sent Denise multiple gifts, thanking her for saving their little girl. In the end, it all worked out. But Denise would never forget the day she saved an innocent child. She truly was a hero.